Oh, where's my glasses?
What is that thing?
Britain.
You guys see something orange at the bottom? Or is
Yeah.
it just
Yes.
Yes.
Says give subtitles a try.
that's weird?
Well,
And a
click it, see what happens.
Huh?
Click it and see what happens.
No, I don't. I
Oh.
already have subtitles. That's
Yeah.
really strange. Does it bother you guys?
No.
It's on the edge.
I know.
Can you drag it over?
I can't. It's not moving.
Okay.
It's not
Mm.
moving. Hold on. Let me do it again.
Oh, it went away.
I know, but I'm gonna do it again. Whoops. See if it disappears. Share, advance, portion of screen, share. Man, I'm so good at this.
You are, you get to be a pro.
Oh, there's Stonehenge.
Boom.
Boom, great.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I got,
Boom.
I know. So let me make you guys smaller and we on. Good evening. So this lecture is about the British Isles. So it's a little confusing because there is different names. There is the British Isles, which are what you see. This is a satellite image. So, but Great Britain is a term of geography. It refers to England, Wales, and Scotland. But the United Kingdom, it encompasses Great Britain and Ireland. I mean the Northern Ireland. So that's for the different terms. Find the slide. Whoop. This is a map of Europe during the last ice age. This is 12,000 years BC. So it's not very long ago. And as you can see, what is now England or the Great Britain was not separated from mainland Europe.
Wow.
So there were a lot of migration from southern France, for example, to Ireland and Scotland and England, because DNA analysis shows that the people, 40% of the people living, for example, in Scotland, have the same DNA as the people that painted caves in the south of France. So they kept migrating back and forth depending on how cold, how warm, or different factors.
Food.
So this is
No.
this is Stonehenge. You all know it's in the Salisbury Plain, and it's about 3,000 to 2400 BC. A few months ago, I was on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland. So I took this picture of the Callanish Standing Stone.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when I went there was not one soul.
Oh, great.
This is a Pictish stone. So as far as we know, the earliest people that we know of were Celtic people. And the Celtic Britons, because they were Celtic in what is now France, and there's Celtic in what is now Great Britain, they lived there during the Iron Ages, and they formed separate cultures. So it became the Welsh, the Picts in Scotland, the Scots were actually from Ireland, and the Britons, which is Brittany, and which is where I'm from. So this is a Pictish were the people who lived in Scotland a long time ago. This is a Pictish stone. It's the image of a boar. It's just a carved stone.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see it.
This is a gold cup, 1700.
Mm.
So they apparently they found it when they were plowing a field, and it damaged the cup.
Mm.
So they were able to do
Yeah.
work already there. This is the Mole Hoibog shield. It's bronze. It's from Wales. It's quite refined. And the other one, the other shield I have is this one. This is called the Battersea Shield, 350 BC, and it was found in the bed of the River Thame at Battersea in London, which is the same area where Julius Caesar crossed the Thame in 54 BC.
Mm.
Mm.
This is a horn helmet, and it was found in the bed of the River Thame near Waterloo Bridge.
Hmm.
Nope. This is a 2nd century map of the British Isles by Ptolemy. Ptolemy was a Greek mathematician and a philosopher. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
the wood
pretty-
cut.
Pretty accurate in a way. Down in the south end, it's actually, pretty you could recognize it.
So the Roman Empire conquered Great Britain around 43 AD, and they conquered it for almost 400 years. So this is roughly a map of the conquest. And for they called Ireland, they called it Hibernia, from the Latin word for winter. So it started in AD 43 under Emperor Claudius, and it was followed by Julius Caesar invasion in 54 BC. This is the Great Dish.
Mm.
This is a Roman artifact.
Wow.
It's silver, and it's part of a silver treasure that was found in Mildenhall in England, and it dates from the 4th century of our era.
Wow.
This is a medieval illumination of the building of Caesar for his invasion of England. So it's funny because they're portraying the people during Caesar's in the same way they dressed in the Middle Ages. But it's such a lovely image. So the Roman occupied Great Britain for 400 years. These are the Roman baths in the city of Bath in England.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
So of course the Romans, they had to fight a lot of wars, especially against the Scots. So it was called Caledonia, and it remained unconquered, all of Scotland. And the Roman, to keep the Scots away, they built the Hadrian Wall. It measured 673 miles, and it took 6 years to build by Roman legion, and it was guarded by 10,000 men. So it separated England from Scotland. So there's actually two bridges. There is the Hadrian's Wall and the Antonine Wall, which preceded it. But you can see those immense thing for 70 miles or more.
Wow.
But because the political situation and the unrest in Rome became very important, they all of a sudden left Great Britain, just like that. Just like that.
Wow.
One day they were there, one day they were all gone. This is the Book of Kells. It's the native people were Kells, and they worshipped many gods. But in 313 of our era, the Roman Emperor Constantine granted the Christians the freedom of worship. So very early, Christianity spread all over Europe. So England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, the art was mainly religious, illuminated manuscript, crosses, and things like that. And when one of the most important ones is the Book of Kells. It's the finest artifact from Ireland. So it contains the 4 Gospels of the New Testament. And this is one of the page of this illuminated book.
Hmm.
So following the sudden departure of the Roman came to fill the vacuum of the departure, they had a series of invasion by everyone, the Vikings, the Anglo-Saxon, the Jutes, the Danes, the Norman. From the 5th to 11th century, they would invade, and mostly to the west part of Great Britain. So Celtic Britain, which is Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and Brittany, they remained Celtic and thus became less anglicized over the years.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
is the Sutton Hoo helmet, Anglo-Saxon helmet found in the 6th century.
Hmm. Wow.
This is the Coppergate
Mhm.
helmet. It's a Viking helmet from the 8th, so around 700 something. This is an illumination. It's the Anglo, the Saxon, and the Jutes crossing the sea to Britain. So it's an illumination. So it's a story. You know, it tells you about of recent events. So this
Mhm.
was from the miscellany on the life of Saint Edmund. But they speak of what was happening during the era. This is Ogier the
Oh.
Dane. It's a bronze statue that is found in Kronborg Castle in Denmark.
Wow.
Wow.
So Edmund Ironside was king of the English for a few months in 1016, and he resisted invasion by Knut the Great, who was a Danish prince and the king of Norway, and actually became eventually king of England. So this is the battle. In the life of King Edward the Confessor, we find this illumination. This is Harald Hardrada, King of Norway. He's leading an invasion of England in 1066. And to do that, he has 300 ships and 10,000 soldiers. And they're trying to seize the English throne.
Hmm.
But the Harald army was defeated at Stamford Bridge. It's a famous battle, and Harold, the king of Norway, died. He was struck in the throat by an arrow.
Sure.
These, you have seen them before.
Yeah.
These are Lewis chessmen, Viking chess pieces, and they were found on Lewis Island in Scotland, where I just went. They were found in a stone chamber, and in the chamber, there was a wooden box with 78 elaborately carved chess pieces, and they're made of walrus ivory with whale teeth. And they were carved in Trondheim in Norway in the 11th or 12th century. And this is the queen and the king.
Hmm.
I have seen actually on the Isle of Lewis, I saw a few of the original.
Wow.
This one is going to be hard for you to see. And it's hard
Yes, it's
for you
tiny.
to see because this is 230 feet long by
Wow.
20. And it is the most famous tapestry in the world. This is the Bayeux Tapestry. 3 days after the King Harald of Norway was defeated, the Duke of, just 3 days, the Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, with French troops and troops from Brittany, invaded and occupied England in 1066. He defeated Harold, the King of England, at the Battle of Hastings. And all of a sudden, the Anglo-Saxon that had been the mainstay in the island just disappeared. All their way of life disappeared. Now it became a Norman invasion, and everything changed. So this is made. You're going to see. I'm going to show you detail. It's 230 feet long. So this is just stitched.
Mm.
These are horses being shipped to England prior to the invasion. So as the other illumination, it tells you a story. It tells you about history.
So does this like lead reading from right to left a story? Like here's the
Correct.
getting ready, and here's the battle,
Correct.
and here's the aftermath, and here's
Yeah, the different
wow.
events and sequentially. This is Bishop Odo rallying his troop at the Battle of Hastings.
Mm.
This is a detail. This is the Battle of Hastings.
Wow.
Oh,
This is Harold Death, and it's written Rex Infectus S, which means the King Harold is killed above it.
Who was
This
working
is,
on that tapestry?
oh, many, many years. This is the English fleeing,
mm.
and thus the Norman conquest was just amazing. It changed everything in Great Britain. This is a picture of an illumination of William the Conqueror. Before he was Duke of Normandy, a vassal of the King of France, and now he makes himself just about the King of England.
Mm.
This is an illumination from Jean de Vabrin. He's a medieval French chronicler who was born in 1400, and it shows the Anglo-Saxon stockade at the Battle of Hastings. The White Tower of London was built by William the Conqueror. We have this image of him.
Mm.
It's rather fanciful, but that is what we have. It's oil and oak panel. So the history continues. This is a statue of William Wallace. He was a 13th century Scottish knight, and during the Wars of Scottish Independence, there was a series of military campaigns between Scotland and the Kingdom of England. And Wallace was a Scottish knight who was born in 1270, and he fought in the First War of Scottish Independence. So he's a Scottish hero. The other Scottish hero is Robert the Bruce. He was King of the Scots from 1306 to 1329, and he led Scotland to the First War of Independence. So he is a national hero in Scotland, and I rather like the Scots. The Battle of Otterburn was a battle that took place between the Scots and the English on the 5th of August of 1388. And Froissart, the chronicler, the French chronicler, said that he met veterans from both sides of the battle. This is the Battle of Bannockburn. It was fought between the army of Robert the Bruce, who became the first king of the Scots, and the army of King Edward II during the First War of Scottish Independence. So it was this Battle of Bannockburn was a decisive victory for Robert Bruce. So it's a landmark moment in Scottish history. So the capture of a castle by the French on the Scots. So most during history, the French have supported Scotland. Anything against them, pretty much. This is an English herald approaching Scottish soldier to have a conversation. The Battle of Neville Cross. This is when they captured Davis II, who was the son of Robert the Bruce. Here's a king. This is Richard II. He was King of England in 1367, and he was king for 33 years. This is found at Westminster Abbey in London. This is another picture of him, Richard II. He's presented to the Virgin and the patron saints. This is 1395. You can see a lot of gold leaf, and it's painted with tempera. And the artist is, I don't know the artist, but it's called the Wilton diptych. It's anonymous, actually. We do not know who did it. So the same king here, this is him dining with the dukes, illumination of the 15th century. And here he's seated with the dukes of York, Gloucester, and Ireland. And they're dining with the King of England. Here again, this is Richard II meeting the rebels during the Peasants' Revolt. The Peasant Revolt was mostly in 1381, and one of the reasons, beside the Black Death, was the instability of the kingdom because of the 100 Years' War. So they revolted. I'll give you a little break by showing a few castles of the era. This is a picture I took in June, in April. This is Castle Stocker in Scotland. This was an amazing moment of my trip.
Yeah.
This was built in 1320 by the clan MacDougall.
Oh.
This one I also saw is Ilion Donan Castle, built in the 13th century to defend against Viking expedition. And it blocked the entrance to a Scottish loch, and it was a stronghold of the Mackenzie clan. I'm showing you this castle, so you get a feel. These are not pleasant summer houses.
No.
They're all defensive castle. Bodiam Castle in England, and this one, like a lot of castles I saw in Scotland, are built right on the shore because they're probably waiting for Viking ships or Anglo ships. This is the Penhere Castle. That's very austere, is it not?
Mhm.
It is.
It has a Lego type of construction.
Yeah, it looks like a prison.
They all do.
Harding, this is a map of Scotland, early 14th century.
Hmm.
Well, this is a great German artist, Albrecht Dürer, and this is his drawing of Irish soldiers.
Mhm.
I found this piece that I found really cool. It's a knight kneeling from the 13th century.
Yeah.
I just find it brings me back to my childhood where we fought with swords made of wood.
Uh-huh.
It's very romantic and exotic to see these people and how they're dressed. It's magnificent. So the 100 Years' War started, and it started in 1337. It ended actually longer than 100 years. It ended in 1453. A very, very long war. And it was essentially a war between two French families. That, England and France did not exist per se as such. They were just different kings who had different territories. So this was two French families. One was the House of Plantagenet, which held the English throne for 3 centuries. This is the Battle of Sluis between the French and English troops in La Rochelle. And the chronicler is Jean Froissart, one of the most famous chronicler of his era.
Who was the other king, or who was the other guy fighting the Plantagenet?
There were many because
okay.
it lasted 120 years. So there was a succession of kings from both sides.
Okay.
This is Edward II of England returning from the province of Gascony in France. It's such a beautiful illustration.
Mhm.
When I do lectures, I show you what I find. It's not like I go after something and I present you that. I show you what I'm able to find. And in a lecture like today, you don't have, it's mostly illumination, portraits of famous people or battle. You don't have painting of of landscape, of regular people. So essentially, I show you what I find. This is the Battle of Crécy, which happened in France in 1372. It's fascinating because he's undoubtedly painting people how people were dressed.
Yeah.
This is exactly how they were. And this one is the Battle of Agincourt, also in France.
Oh, they fancy long pants on or whatever they are. All those colors.
Yeah, I know. This one is so pretty. Did I just show you this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's nice to see it again.
I know, I love this one. This is English soldiers and the pillage of they tried to occupy the area around Paris, but they were defeated. But the English became very unpopular because wherever they went, they destroyed. They burned, they left absolutely nothing. And that was so they became, the French really hated the English during the 100 Years' War because they did not just fight, they burned everything that they saw.
So they were soccer hooligans even back then.
This is the King of England from 1399 to 1413. Past. He was the first English ruler whose mother tongue was English rather than French since the Norman conquest 300 years before. So he's king, and after a little lull in the battle between French and English, he's going to revive the 100 Years' War. So there we go. This is the Siege of Orleans in 1428. Orleans is southwest of Paris. So that's where the king was. They're starting a siege of the city of Orleans. However, came Joan of Arc.
Oh,
And Joan of Arc was actually amazing in many ways. She inspired the French to rise against the English. And she even impressed the king, who gave her a horse and armor. She actually fought on the field. So, the siege of Orleans was repulsed by the French forces, who were inspired by the arrival of Joan of Arc. So this is her riding in Orleans. And the king of France at this time was Charles VII the Victorious. He was king of France from 1422 to 1461, so a very long reign. And his reign saw the end of the 100 Years' War and the end of the English claim to the French throne. I have this amazing map by Ignazio Danti. He was an Italian bishop, a mathematician and astronomer, born in 1536. Is that not lovely?
look at all the little islands.
What amazed me is, with the knowledge of the time, are they able to create a very accurate map of that really amazes me.
Yeah.
This is Richard III. I'm going to show you a few kings. We do not know who painted this. He was King of England for just 1 year in 1483. This is King James of Scotland and England and Queen Margaret of Denmark at prayer. It is such a beautiful painting. So it's a diptych. It's two different panels. This is a portrait of Charles I. And the reason I show you Charles I, I hope I kept all these rulers in order, because this, over centuries, you have 30, 50 rulers. So it gets very confusing. And so this is Charles I. He did not do too well in life.
No.
He was executed in 1649. And the text above it says, or below it, the most abhorrent, outrageous execution performed on the most serene and most grandly powerful Karl Stuart, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, in London before Whitehall Palace, Tuesday, 30 January in the year 1649, between 2 and 3 p.m.
Mm.
And later came the Confession of Richard Brandon. Richard Brandon is said to have been the executioner of Charles I.
Mm.
This is Charles I of England, painted by Anthony van Dyck. It's a famous painting because it shows the king in 3 different positions.
Mhm. Yeah.
So now I'll show you a few great artists of the era. One of the great one is the French. He's French with probably Dutch origin, Cornel de Lion. This is a portrait of James V of Scotland. So Cornel de Lion lived in Lyon around 1533. I mean, that's when he died in the city of Lyon. I saw this one. It's absolutely exquisite. It measures 9 inches by 6 inches. I saw it at the Museum of Art in Edinburgh. And there's just something about this piece. It is exquisite. This is Marie de Guise. She was the wife of James V, and she is going to become the mother of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Mm.
This is her and her husband, James V of Scotland. This is now Mary, Queen of Scots. This is an anonymous painting with the when her husband, Mary de Guise's husband, died, her daughter Mary became Queen of the Scots in 1542, and she became queen.
And she was just a baby, right? Or
Yes,
young.
I am looking for my.
She was very, very young. And this is a posthumous portrait of Mary, Queen of Scots. We do not know who painted it,
Well, I don't know what to do now.
but it's very quaint to see this painting. Here's
Looking for my.
an awful painting
looking
of the
for my
Elizabethan
earphones
era.
around.
They're right here.
So the Elizabethan era is the epoch in the Tudor period of the history of England. So Queen Elizabeth from 1558 to 1603, so a very long reign. So people think of it as the golden age in English history. So this is, you can see how the face is very naively painted, yet the clothes are absolutely extravagant. This is a Dutch painter, Marcus Gerhard the Younger. It's called the Rainbow Portrait of Elizabeth I. Many, many paintings were made of her.
Mm.
This one is rather nice. This one is a bit ridiculous, but it's the Armada portrait of Elizabeth I. It's called the Armada portrait of Elizabeth I, and in the background, you can see a naval battle because the Armada was a fleet of Austrian and Spanish fleet which sailed from Lisbon, and they tried to invade England in 1588. So this is the English ships fighting the Spanish Armada in 1620. And this all on canvas is from 1620 also. Check out this beautiful painting of the same battle, English ship fighting the Spanish Armada. So the Armada was a Habsburg Empire, so Austrian and Spanish fleet of around 130 different ships.
It's a beautiful painting.
They did not, the painting is absolutely beautiful, but they did not succeed. By the way, any of you want a video of the lecture, I can send it to you. This is an anonymous painter of the Earl of Nottingham, and he's well known because he was the English admiral who commanded the English fleet under Elizabeth I against the Spanish Armada. He's the man. And this gentleman is another important figure of the Elizabethan era. This is Walter Raleigh, He was a statesman, he was a soldier, he was a writer, he was an explorer, and he was born in 1553. And he was granted a royal patent to explore what is now the state of Virginia for future settlement.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Mhm.
The few paintings I'm going to show you, this about William Scott. He was a painter at the Tudor court. He was born in 1537. So right there, England started a very strong tradition of portrait and also portrait miniature. This is Elizabeth I, again, as a princess. Edward VI of England. And this painting was originated during marriage negotiation between Edward VI and the eldest daughter of Henry II of France. And William Scott also painted this, again, Edward VI of England. It's quite beautiful. The clothing, you can feel the fur, it's called ermine. It's a type of fur that is very, very expensive and it is often worn by royalty. The clothing is absolutely superb. William Scott also painted this great painting of Maximilian, who was the Holy Roman Empire. So that's the Habsburg Spanish Empire. This unlucky lady, this is Catherine Parr, and she was the sixth and the last wife of Henry VIII.
Uh-oh.
The painting is exquisite. The rendering of the clothing is just breathtaking.
Satin or
This is a great painting, and we don't know who painted it. This is the Field of the Cloth of Gold, painted in 1545. The Field of the Cloth of Gold was a summit between Henry VII of France, Henry VII of England and King Francois I of France. It was a very expensive display of wealth by both kings. And this painting is 12 feet wide.
look at the dragon in the sky.
So that's typical of the era. But it's absolutely beautiful piece. I'm going to show you a few paintings of Hans Holbein the Younger. He was a German-Swiss painter, and he's considered one of the greatest portrait painters of the 16th century. And this is Henry VIII, who succeeded, I think, Henry VII. So this is Hans Holbein. He has a very unique way of painting people. This is another painting of Henry VIII by Hans Holbein the Elder. This lady, this unfortunate lady, is Anne Boleyn. She was Queen of England as the second wife of Henry VIII. She was beheaded for treason in 1536. This is Jane Seymour. This is his third wife, the third wife of Henry VIII, and she was Queen of England. I found this beautiful piece, which is a copy after Hans Holbein the Younger. Absolutely stunning piece that had been painted by Hans Holbein. Lady Guildford, she was married to Henry Guildford. He was a controller of finance under King Henry VIII. It's a splendid portrait of his wife. Her name was Mary Wotton. Absolutely stunning piece. Hans Holbein not only painted, but he designed the armor of Henry VIII.
Wow. So
Hans Holbein worked at the English court for 2-3 years in 1526. This is same artist, and he's great because he was at the court of England, and we have a portrait of Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell was the chief minister to Henry VIII. Absolutely stunning portrait. This is Sir Thomas More.
Mm.
He was an English lawyer, he was a philosopher and a statesman. He was born in 1478 in London.
Look at the velvet.
I know. Yeah, the velvet is, you're right. It looks very neon-like. This is a drawing that Hans Holbein did it's a study of the family of Thomas More. Look how exquisite his drawing is. Not long after that, somebody from this sketch created this painting. This is Roland Lauke. It's painted in 1592.
Wow.
So it's Thomas More and his family. A different artist now. His name is George Cower. This is Elizabeth I, and you can see how naively painted it is. And yet, look at the background of the flowers to the right.
Oh, yeah.
That part is absolutely exquisite. But part of the painting are very naive, especially the face. But he got better because this is a painting he did of Charles II of England. Pretty fancy coronation clothes he was wearing. He also painted this painting of Mary Cornwallis. She was the Countess of Bath. So this is an oil on a wood panel. I'm sure it has age. And this painting is Lady Frances Sidney. She was the Countess of Sussex, and she was the lady to the bedchamber of Queen Elizabeth I. Look at the clothing.
I know.
The ermine.
Yeah.
You've heard about this guy.
Yeah.
No, but
Portrait of Shakespeare. He was a poet, a playwright. So this is a copper engraving of him. And I found the funerary monument of Shakespeare. It's at the town of Stratford upon Avon. And since I was in funerary monument, I'm going to show you a few. This is the effigy of Henry VIII of England, or the Third of England.
Wow.
King Edward III was not a nice guy. He was a warlike monarch. He invaded France with Edward the Black Prince, and he started what was the 100 Years' War. At least the French don't like him. Look at this piece. This is the tomb of Sion Trevor.
That's funny.
It's just so cool. I absolutely love that piece.
Just hanging out.
yeah, just hanging out.
Just magical. This one I saw, it's made of marble, 16th century Mary, Queen of Scots. I saw it at the National Museum of Scotland. Now I will show you Paul van Sommer. Paul van Sommer was a Flemish artist from Antwerp, and he was one of the leading painters at the royal court. So we don't know much about him, but he left us incredible painting. This is Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon was the first Viscount of St. Alban. He was the Lord Chancellor of England, and he was an English philosopher and a statesman. So he has been called the father of empiricism because he argued for scientific knowledge, as opposed to religious beliefs. It's a very striking piece with a red background. He also painted this. This is King James I of England. You like these boofy pants? Okay, it's hard to imagine that they wore this at one time. I mean, you know what it looked like? It looked like the tubies that Linda and Jesse wear at Halloween. The tubies.
The two bees, what it like bumblebees?
No,
Oh,
the
he means the Teletubbies.
Yeah, the
We have Teletubbies outfits. They do kind of look like that. Except
This
all of
Paul
them
van
are-
Sommer. This is Lady Willoughby with her son. and her son is holding a tennis racket.
Mm.
Hmm.
It's a very exquisite painting. Same artist, Paul Van Sommer. This is George Villiers, the first Duke of Buckingham.
Look at the pearls.
Yeah.
Those are probably real pearls.
I think you're right. This artist is Steven van Molen. He was a Flemish artist born in 1543, and he was a painter at the court of Elizabeth I. So this is a portrait of Catherine Carey. She was Lady Knollys, and she was the chief lady of the bedchamber to Queen Elizabeth I. She was born in 1524, and her mother was Mary Boleyn, the sister of Anne Boleyn, who was the second wife of Henry VIII. If I lost you, that's okay. I lost myself still saying it. Same artist, Stephen van der Meulen, Henry Fitzalan, the 12th Earl of Arundel. This is at the National Portrait Gallery.
Mhm.
It's amazing how it's the way the black is painting, you see almost no definition, and yet it's
Yeah.
powerful. He also painted this great painting of Thomas Butler, the 10th Earl of Ormond, in battle armor.
Yeah.
Thomas Butler was a Lord Treasurer of Ireland, so he was an influential courtier at the court of Elizabeth I. The same artist painted Robert Dudley. He was the Earl of Leicester. He was another favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, and he was one of the main backer of Francis Drake expedition to plunder the western coast of South America. An unusual painting by an artist called Robert Peake the Elder. It's Henry Frederick, Prince of Wales in the hunting field. This is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Same artist. This is Catherine Carey, the Countess of Nottingham. So this artist was appointed picture maker to the throne. Look at the detail on the clothes. It's astonishing when the face is just so, so naively painted. However, it's not the case for all his work. This one is one of my favorite. This is Lady Elizabeth Pope.
Her
It's a
expression.
little,
There's a clear sensuality and vibrancy and to her face. She was a member of the English aristocracy. This is a painting of what must have been a very beautiful woman. This is Elizabeth Poulet. She was another English noblewoman born in 1533. She looks very, very pretty.
Mhm.
Isaac Oliver's A Party in the Open Air or Conjugal Love. So this artist was a French artist, but he, during the War of Religion in France, he was a Protestant, so he moved to England.
This is a party? Whoa.
It's the open air of Chongqing. Yeah, it's an outdoor party and lovers. William Larkin is a great painting of the era. He's an English painter who was born in London in 1580, and he's known for his iconic portrait of the court. And he shows incredible detail. This is a portrait of Mary Radcliffe, an oil on canvas. It's exquisite and very powerful. I don't know how he makes the black look, how the black of the clothes look like they have depth. But it's absolutely very powerful and bold. He painted this. This is a portrait of Diana Cecil. She was the Countess of Oxford. He painted this in 1614.
Wow.
Look at the curtain, how neon.
Mm.
Those colors are just, it's just absolutely amazing. This is a portrait of Richard Sackville. He was the Earl of Dorset. There is this effeminacy of the court. We are past the Middle Ages where men wore sword, These are not too manly. You look at his shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not wear that.
I want to know
Uh,
who's making all these clothes, who, I mean,
For the
Who?
very, very
must have
well.
taken hours, these people and special people.
Oh, yeah, some people just did clothes. This is just exquisite work, however. He also painted this. This is a baby said to be Lady War. So she probably died very early. It's just an unusual painting. Again, the curtain are really, really cool. And I'm gonna leave you with two more paintings of children that I found quite beautiful. This is three young girls. We don't know who they are in the magic outfit.
Size.
And I'm gonna leave you with a masterpiece. This is James I of England as an 8-year-old boy. It's at the National Portrait Gallery and it's painted by Roland Lucky. And voila, that will end my lecture. And I thank you very much for being there and sharing it with me.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot.
I lost my voice halfway, man.
Yeah. Well, all those names and everything, that was a lot.
I know,
Wow.
a lot of text.
All those wars. It's always wars, isn't it?
No, it's not always war. It's just, again, I say when I do a lecture, I show you what I find. So
Yeah.
if there's no pictures of landscape or everyday's life, if all I find are pictures of battle, portraits of kings, or illumination, that is what I have to show you. Does that make sense? So I show you, I try to find great images, but I can only show you the theme that are available, you know. So England did not produce much else but these images.
I guess that's what I mean. I wasn't complaining about what you brought. I thought
Oh, no, I understand.
it just shows throughout history how it's always just fight, fight, fight.
Oh, yeah.
There's the harvest festivals. I like when the town comes together and there's pictures of groups of people all over and they're dressed different and things, how they get things done. Just the daily life. I like those pictures when you show them too. And then tonight, the portraits were phenomenal.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, that's all we have of this era. It's very, very limited in genre, but it does, you know, it's left us with amazing masterpieces. Anna Ray, would you like to speak? I don't want to talk anymore. I want to hear from you.
Don't blame you. I was thinking about the illuminations and how colorful they were and how educational they were, and then comparing them to all these portraits of queens and kings and handmaidens and dressed like queens, and some of the portraits and the clothing, oh my goodness. So quite a contrast there. I loved Lady Willoughby.
Oh yeah, it's such a pretty painting. The next lecture about the British Isles is going to be completely different because we're moving on, you know, past the Renaissance. It'll be very different. Jerry.
Christian, can you illuminate a little bit about the illuminations, because they almost seem to be cartoonish. Not, I don't mean that bad.
No, they are. They're often very naively painted.
Yeah, and it's something
But
we
you have to realize that then the painting were not the most popular things at all. You know, tapestry was the #1 thing in art, the statues, or you know. But you also have to realize that the people that did this book, they weren't necessarily painters, they were illuminators. So often they were illuminating, so illustrating book of hours, where only one book was made for a lord or whoever, someone wealthy. So there was only one copy. and so it's hard to think of them as what you think as painter. They did more than painting. They also did the calligraphy and
Yeah.
they added gold leaf and all these things. So he doesn't have the quality of great painters, but it is a tale of their time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to look at the stories that they were telling with the illuminations, and it was fun. I appreciate that.
Hey, Linda, I want to hear from you, so you get off your phone,
I'm not on my phone.
totally way, like a teenager.
No, I'm actually knitting. I'm knitting a dog,
Oh God, that's wrong.
knitting a dog sweater. No, it's really interesting. I think probably the portraits, it seems to me that the clothing, I mean, they didn't really walk around in those clothes. I don't think so. It seems to me that somebody made these clothes, they just put on the clothes for the painting. Don't
Well,
you think?
they were ceremonial clothes.
Ceremonial, yeah. So you wouldn't walk around at a party or something with
No.
the big fluffy things on your shoes or anything.
No, but one thing I think you could assume that the person in the portrait chose the clothes they wanted to be shown in.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They say, I want you to paint me this way or this way.
right. But they were
were
very
kings or-
impractical and, don't look comfortable. It wouldn't be something you would wear all the time.
No, so some of them are very extravagant, but in no way did they reflect, what people wore in this period.
Right.
They just
And the Book of
outrageous.
Krells, we actually saw the Book of Krells. It's
you
in
did?
Dublin. Yeah, it's in Dublin at Trinity College.
Yeah,
What they do, they have it under glass. It's very heavily guarded and you have to walk, it's very somber. You have to, get in a line and walk by it. But they would change the page each day. So
Really?
each day it would be a different, ornate painting or whatever. Yeah, it was cool.
oh, that's totally cool. Yeah. Jerry, Jesse,
Um, I remember studying this period in history class, and it was incredibly confusing to kind of keep track of all the kings and all the.
Right.
That's for sure.
I mean, I can see why. I mean, it seemed like everybody was attacking one another, and it was constant chaos, and but I think you've done a good job in trying to kind of put some order into that chaos. Because it was always very confusing to me, who was battling whom and, who and stuff. But you've done a good job.
thank you very much. No, it's very confusing. I did lectures on Egypt, and there were like 300 different rulers of pharaohs, So, but what you have to realize is when you tell a story like this, history appear rather compressed, it all become like this. For example, if you think of the Biden-Trump era, right? Hundreds of books have been written about it, all those details, right? And this is only like 4 or 6 years. But here we're talking hundreds of years. So you think there's a lot of battles, and because they're only showing you important moments. But I'm sure there were a lot of peaceful time. So people view the Middle Ages in a way that is very dark. But there were also happiness and marriage and baby. There were also regular people plowing the field, and so we tend to focus on the battles and the misfortune of these people. Terry, would you like to share something?
No, I was thinking about what you just said, because it seems like in some of the other lectures, people were doing more paintings of, jolly times and, with the peasants dancing around and stuff. And it's interesting that during this time you just showed us, I don't know, it's very interesting how a time can feel so different just by what people wanted to portray. But maybe those are rich guys, and paying for having those paintings done too.
Yeah, there was just different custom and different styles, and style changes. In the same era, the exact same time, you had Bruegel the Elder and Hieronymus Bosch, completely different cultures, completely different artwork. Sandra, I do want to hear from you, my dear.
I was struck by the fact that these portraits of these royal people, the clothing, the material, the curtains, there's so much detail, so rich. And the
Mhm.
faces though, had almost no detail. I mean, the personality, of course, didn't come through at all, or the age at all.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until Hans Holbein, the younger, that you started to see more modulation in the face and more individuality, right? That
Yeah.
really struck me, that there were that naivete about the faces. And
Yeah.
Well, the reason for that is that, in a lot of ways, a ruler, a king or a queen were from divine origin.
mm,
So it was blasphemy to paint them in human proportion, to make them look human.
mhm,
So the attention is gonna be paid to the clothes. Yeah.
mm.
So you like that era? You like this lecture, Sandra?
I liked Hans Holbein.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
Hans
and
Holbein.
the other question I had is, why did the Romans leave after 400 years?
Because the Roman in around
Trouble. Oh,
400 AC, they had enormous trouble at home, and that's
Yeah.
very soon it'll be the end of the Roman Empire because they're being invaded by the Visigoth, they're being invaded by different German tribes, and there's political unrest in Rome in 400, and they just left from one day to the next. And the culture they had created just was taken over by the Anglo-Saxon. And when the Norman with William the Conqueror came, they completely erased the Anglo-Saxon heritage and so forth. So,
mhm.
yeah. Terry,
Who?
huh?
Did you say Terry or Carrie?
I said Terry.
Oh, okay. Who's Carrie?
Terry, do you have something to share? There's no Carrie.
Oh, me. Oh, I already said a bunch of stuff, but let me think.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the faces, I just had this thing as you were talking about, the faces, that maybe it's kind of like nowadays, everybody, they have these little shows on the, whatever you call it, you go online and you see all these people and they put all this makeup on. They want to be all this perfect certain thing. They don't show their real selves. I thought maybe that's what they were doing. They're paying this guy a ton of money or whatever to paint their portraits, but they want to look a certain way, all perfect, no lines of any kind.
No, but it will.
Maybe they were going to get in trouble if they put them in.
Yeah, but you see in history how it changes. A century later, you're going to see people painted with great accuracy and realism. Mary Jane, can I hear from you?
Sure. Um, from what I know and what I've learned about England and the Great Britain, is it was really kind of a backwater back
Absolutely.
then.
Very
It
backwards.
was a couple of islands off the coast of France, and they were busy killing each other. If you read about the kings of England, for the longest time, your son was not guaranteed to be the next king. He had to prove himself, and it was just like anybody could be king if he just had enough men behind him. So it was kind of bad. I think we don't have a lot of those kind of painters like Rembrandt and the other ones that we've seen in Holland and Germany, because they just weren't that cultured, to tell you the
I
truth.
think I'll interrupt you for a second. What she says is really absolutely true. It is, English, the British Isles, they were really backward compared to other powers like Germany, France, and Italian Renaissance. They were quite backward. So that's why the only thing I found was what I showed you. But continue, Mary Jane, I want to tell me what you had to say.
That's that. I was just wanted to make that comment. I think that's why there's a whole genre of art missing, because they're too busy killing each other. And it, it was Henry VIII had a terrible reputation. He was looking for wife number 5, and it was like no more 4. Nobody wanted to go there because he had beheaded one of his queens. So I liked the portraits as usual. Just the fabric is incredibly detailed. I also liked the tapestries, the ideas of that, Bayeux tapestry. You read it, you could read it, the history of that whole time. that it was there. I like the tapestries and the illuminations.
I think you read it from left to right, but it is.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
The tapestry that's 230 feet.
Yeah,
And
it's a
it
history
is,
book.
it's that's the history of the invasion of England by the Normans.
And
So
Krishna,
anybody would like to share something?
where was the tapestry hanging? I mean, it was long, or I mean wide, because it was going to hang in a certain place, right? It was
Yeah,
hanging from a certain
actually, I don't remember where it is hanging.
castle.
I don't know if it's hanging in Bayeux, because Bayeux is a town in Normandy where it was made in France, but it's a town in Normandy and it's near where the Allied landed. You know, it was completely destroyed, so I'm sure it had been moved. I don't know. But you know, all these pieces I show you, many of them are masterpieces in the history of art. Imagine the history of each painting. They belong to different people, were transported, stolen, you know, etc. And many artwork perishes. So this is what's left to us.
How
And
do
I
you-
find it fascinating.
How do you think they got the map? How did they do that? Do you
Do
think
what?
it was just, when they did the
Yeah.
map? How did
The-
they
the
do it
maps
without
are-
satellites and all
They
that?
they had cartographers, they had seamen that followed the seamen, people that were seafaring, they did not go in the open ocean. They followed the coast and they were able to measure, and they use astronomy and astrology. They were able to measure fairly accurately all of Europe.
Wow.
So, you know, when you think of human evolution, we think we're in the 21st century and we know about DNA and blah, blah, blah. We do all these incredible things. But if you read the Roman and the Greeks, the people writing at the time were every bit as intelligent as we are. They're as brilliant.
More. Yeah.
So while technology has improved, you know, I don't think the ability to think, more people can think because now more people go to school or things like that. It's my opinion. Yeah, Jesse, would you like to share something before I close?
So, I kept thinking about King Arthur. So where does King Arthur fit in?
King Arthur is a myth. It's a story.
He's not
King
real?
Arthur, the Round Table. I
He's
bet
not-
Mary Jane knows about King Arthur.
So
Yes, he was a myth.
he's not real?
No, he was never real. He was just
Yeah,
because,
break
like
his
the
heart.
dream king.
He just broke his heart.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. No such thing as Camelot.
All right, that's all I have to say then.
All right, guys.
I
It's
But
didn't
been-
Mary
know
Jane,
he
was
was
there a
real.
round table? I think there was something about the round table that was true, wasn't
I
it?
think so too.
Yeah, about the round table, the idea of it.
Maybe.
And then maybe they made, that history, stories about it all, but it's
Yeah.
a combination of different people.
So the Holy Grail, is that a myth too?
I'm gonna look up all this stuff.
Not
on
according to Monty Python.
you
I
know,
know, right? I'm thinking some of those outfits would look, that helmet was totally Monty Python.
Yes, yeah, a lot of those. The chain one with the chain in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
you know, guys, unicorns don't exist. Have a good night. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Hey,
all
bye,
you
Kristen.
put a lot into that.
Right.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Terry.